How's it going, everyone? Want to go over a pretty interesting note that's been made and this attention that this content ventures team over at Sony is getting. I think it's really cool that they do have a content ventures team, and it looks like they've been involved with securing some relatively important deals for PlayStation, as well as supporting with the release of other games coming from outside of America and other titles being released over here. But right off the bat, I do want to talk that PlayStation is giving a lot of support to a plethora of games. One notable title is Black Myth Wukong. Spotted by Gaming Bolt, a new interview with Phil Rosenberg, SVP of Global Partner Development at Relations at Sony Interactive Entertainment, revealed details about third-party games receiving support from PlayStation. Rosenberg first stated that the Content Ventures team at Sony is excellent at identifying new franchises and bringing them on. They have discovered games like Stray, Genshin Impact, Black Myth Wukong, Stellar Blade, and more. Rosenberg added that there's nobody better in the world than Christian Svensson and Sean Benson at finding these hidden gems and nurturing up-and-coming companies that are usually very difficult to find. I think it's pretty important that they do have a team that's involved in doing something like this, because Sony was involved with Stellar Blade pretty early on. Black Myth Wukong is such an interesting game because I don't think anyone knows what actually went on with this game on it not releasing on Xbox. So my belief is that the reasoning of this game not coming to Xbox is the fact that the Series S has some hardware limitations, and it could be real. I get that a lot of people are saying, oh, X developer was able to port this game to Xbox, the Series S isn't a limitation. Guys, not every development studio is created equally. Just because one development studio finds it relatively easy to find their game easy to port onto the Xbox Series S, and that's rather impressive, doesn't mean another studio is gonna find it similarly. Game Science, it's not like they have this plethora of game development experience in their back catalog where they've made big budget console titles. I think this false equivalency is just an issue across the board. Just because a lot of developers, and credit to them, have utilized the Series S doesn't mean that Black Myth Wukong, which is a game that has issues on the base PlayStation 5, bear that in mind as well, that doesn't mean that game didn't have issues being ported to the Series S. It could be that, hey, PlayStation supported Black Myth Wukong and the Game Science team looked at the Series S and were thinking, this looks like an absolute headache to get onto the Series S. Is it possible? Maybe. But maybe they just realize, hey, Sony is helping us out, we don't have to release this game on Xbox. I don't know, that's just all pure speculation, but we've never been told anything definitively. However, this idea that PlayStation has this exclusivity agreement with Black Myth Wukong, I don't think that's the case. Just because if there was an exclusivity agreement, I would be shouting that from the rooftops. I would be making that well known. I'd be promoting PlayStation around Black Myth Wukong, and that really wasn't done. Look at what was done with Stellar Blade and how that game was promoted on PlayStation versus Black Myth Wukong. Did Black Myth Wukong get promoted by PlayStation a little bit? Yeah, but not to the extent that Stellar Blade was. Now, Stellar Blade was a PlayStation published game as well. Black Myth Wukong was not that. There can be agreements in a wide variety of different ways, and there were rumors about Black Myth Wukong being limited as far as its release, not releasing on Xbox due to an exclusivity deal. However, Microsoft did note that the delay, and that's what they noted, that the Xbox version was delayed, was not due to platform limitations. And then earlier this year, the founder and CEO of Game Science did note that the Xbox port for Black Myth Wukong didn't arrive due to optimization issues on the Series S. That was literally said. Is that being used as an excuse? I don't know. You guys, I already see these conspiracy theories being made up. It's just like, what do you want me to do? What I will say is, I thought 2024 was a very lackluster year for PlayStation as far as exclusives go, but guess what? Black Myth Wukong was legit one of the biggest game releases in all of 2024, and how Microsoft could fumble getting that game on their platform for whatever reason, whether it be an exclusivity deal, whether it be this, that, whatever, it was legitimately one of the biggest game releases of 2024, and it being a de facto PlayStation console exclusive, if it is because of Series S optimization, that is a gigantic L for them, especially where 2024 would have been a year for them to look at PlayStation output and be like, okay, let's have a strong year, and then you're just giving them free exclusives, or at least free console exclusives like Black Myth Wukong. That's just a significant L and a loss, just because of how big the game is. Now, Foresight wouldn't have told us that Black Myth Wukong was going to be this juggernaut behemoth game that it was, but I feel like it was relatively easy to assess that it was going to be a big game, and I would question. We saw this with Baldur's Gate 3 as well. Baldur's Gate 3 was kind of a PlayStation console exclusive for a little bit. Now, it came out on PC first, and then it got a delayed release on PlayStation 5, and a game like Baldur's Gate 3 is just not going to resonate with a console audience like Black Myth Wukong was going to do. I would say Black Myth Wukong, as far as it being linked to the Series S, being the reason for its Xbox delay, is the biggest L the Series S has taken and given to Microsoft. Ultimately, it's not the end of the world, it's inconsequential in the grand scheme of things, but if this persists to be an issue, that is certainly something to consider. At the end of the day, I think most games are going to be able to be optimized for the Series S, and you've seen some pretty remarkable games end up being able to be ran on the Series S. I think even with a Black Myth Wukong, my speculation and my assessment of the situation is if that game science sat down and really did look at the Series S optimization and the Xbox release as a #1 priority or a top level priority for them, they would have gotten the game prioritized on the Series S. If the Series S was this incredibly popular platform, I think they would have gotten it optimized on the Series S. However, it's just not that big, and you're gonna release it on PlayStation. It's gonna do juggernaut numbers on PC. I feel like they just looked at the Xbox release and just decided, hey, this isn't that big of a deal right now. Let's forego it. Maybe there was an exclusivity deal attached to it, but generally speaking, when there is an exclusivity deal, a timed exclusivity deal, it's pretty obvious to know. Rise of Ronin, Stellar Blade, all of these games that have a Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, of course, these games, it's fairly obvious to realize that they have a timed exclusivity agreement. With Black Myth Wukong, that never felt to be the case. So that's my assessment of that situation, but curious to hear what you guys know. And more than anything, it is really cool that they do have this content ventures team, because there are so many games that are in development worldwide, coming from all regions of the world, and I feel like there's so many compelling projects in development, but how do you weed through them all, and how do you assess which ones are going to be worthwhile to invest into? The fact that they landed on Stray, which by the way was a timed PlayStation console exclusive and was a PS Plus Day 1 title, Genshin Impact, if they supported on that, that is massive. Black Myth Wukong and Stellar Blade, those are some juggernaut releases, and Stellar Blade is probably going to end up being a prominent franchise for PlayStation in totality going forward. That's a huge W for that content ventures team, and I would like to really know as far as everything they've done, because I'm sure that they've landed on some games that didn't pan out as well as, let's say, a Stellar Blade. I think a Stellar Blade was probably best case scenario of what the Content Ventures team has done, but that's still a very, very cool initiative that Sony has under their umbrella. But that'll do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Sound off there. As always, thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.